bunny suit was me. Brian the bunny.
It's starting! He's one of the zombies now! Look out for your blood!
I don't know, Z. Zim's being kind of whacked.
Yo.
Post-production basically entails editing, music, sound effects, dialogue. I basically put together everything that is done overseas and bring it all together and make the finished product. I do any fixes that may need to happen, so retakes, basically everything from color and editing to anything you hear sound-wise is done under post-production, and we would mix that all together here at Solani Studios, where we are right now.
The process usually works as like it would be thumbnail, we thumbnail it, and then present that. There'd be some changes, and then you go to like finish.
Yeah, we pitch our thumbnails to Jonan and Steve, and then what they approved or they changed, then we clean it up.
I was originally hired as a storyboard artist. I wasn't the art director until about a year later. I was doing storyboards. He was bringing me a lot of revisions, a lot of the stuff that was getting kicked back from Korea. And I made a joke one day that it would just be easier if they sent me to Korea to fix it. And a few days later, they sent me there for 3 weeks to train the overseas crew. When I got back, not long after we started up the second season, and they thought it'd be a good idea to take some of the responsibilities that Jonan had. He just was pulled in so many different directions. So they took a lot of his art director responsibilities and gave them to me and gave me that position.
Jay Bondi, who was the color director, gave me a call when they were doing the pilot and asked me to come over and do an interview, and I met with Jonan, and we hit it off. So I started right after the pilot and worked on all 27 episodes.
I really, when I saw the designs of the characters for the show, I was like, oh man, I would love to work on that. Quite honestly, yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we heard that they were going to do a show for Invader Zim, and we saw the pilot and we understood what they were trying to do, we just knew that we had to get on it, and it was going to be something special. Especially with Steve is a really good friend of ours, and we knew that with Steve and Jonan that the sky was the limit. So.
Zim was so fun because unlike the sitcom shows I had worked on, where in 22 minutes you'd be lucky if you could squeeze one of your own visual jokes in. The writers were ruled the show with an iron fist, and anything that they didn't write you weren't really allowed to put in. Whereas on Zim, you pretty much were just locked in a room for a month and expected to turn out about 350 to 500 pages of storyboards. And so also we worked with the writers in the same area, so you could walk over to the writer and talk to them, get clarification, say that you had an idea of a different way to do the scene than maybe what was written, and there was a lot more flexibility and a lot more respect between the writers and the artists.
The show was probably the most difficult show I've ever worked on at the time. Even though I'd worked on primetime shows, the level of quality to everything that Jonan and the whole crew wanted and expected was much higher. And with the amount of money and the time that we had and we were given, we were able to make an amazing product, but it was very, very hard to do. It was creative minds and business minds sort of wrestling all at the same time. But I think that the final product was always pretty amazing. So.
Yeah, we finally conquered it, and then the show ran its course. So.
Yeah,
I think we got good at drawing it in the last couple shows.
Adapting to Jonan's style was at first it was really tough because in animation there really isn't anything like it. and it was really unusual. And the way he even acted or wanted the characters to act was different because he hadn't worked in animation.
Yeah, you and Brian were probably the best at him right
Brian
away.
did real well.
But yeah, it took us a while to get good at it.
Well, what's interesting is that Jonan really likes, and you'll hear it on the commentary, he really likes to make big moments out of small moments. And that's what you really ended up spending a lot of time doing. It's just like, you know, it'll just be someone picking up a phone, but you'll do these insane shots that are almost uncalled for that moment to just kind of heighten it and bring something interesting to it. And it was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun to do that kind of stuff. You usually don't get to. Usually the writing in terms of like the way people speak and the dialogue, people want to focus more on that, like, and they don't really want to focus on the filmmaking or how you do tell the story. So it was fun.
Yeah, anime was definitely a big influence on the compositions, a lot of the crazy angles, and a lot of the speedline stuff. I mean, it was pretty hard to pull off on an American TV system, but that's one of the reasons they made me art director, was to help get someone to focus on that stuff. And so that's why I think the episodes like Gas Taste Report, I feel like it actually helped on some of those episodes. They have a more unified look. They look good, I think.
Every Monday, Jonah would bring donuts in. You never knew what they were filled with, so it got a little crazy at times, but I enjoyed it. I mean, you know, it was a mystery. Some of them were like spring-loaded with metal parts, but most of it was, you know, just yummy jelly goodness. But that's probably my favorite part of working on the show was the donuts and the cheese. I like cheese and pound cake. He didn't like pound cake, and that was one of the things we tussled over every once in a while. But you know, I had to have my way about some things, and the pound cake stayed.
I know it'll cheer you up.
Parent-teacher night was the first one I did. That was really fun. The Robo parents go crazy. Planet Jackers was really fun. I did with Kyle Minke. Anytime I got to work with Chris Graham, he's my favorite storyboard artist I've ever worked with. We did Saucer Morons that Eric Trueheart wrote, and those shows are really fun. And I think maybe even the Christmas episode was really one of my favorite ones.
And what do you want, little boy or girl?
I want me a pair of flies. I want me 2 balls of glue to be my friends, and I want to go dancing naked.
Both Steve and Jonan were really into anime, like really. Steve is an obsessive anime fan. And I mean, he'll watch like these obscure things that you've never even heard of. Like, he was showing us stuff like months before like I started hearing about it, like from other people. And he wants to bring that kind of filmmaking to television animation too, because of the fact that it's a slightly more limited animation, and it's beautiful because it's more cinematic, and we really just wanted to try to take advantage of it.
We actually paid to be.
Yeah,
We should have
there's
paid.
that.
I actually saw the pilot playing at the Comic-Con, and I remember being like, oh my god, I want to work on that, but not my wildest fantasies did I think it would come true.
Boarding for the 3D segments was actually really fun. Unfortunately, it wasn't very organized. We wouldn't know how much it would cost or how much we would be budgeted in an episode to storyboard. So basically, it was like a wish list. We would board something, and we'd go to Steve and say, hey, I really want this to be 3D. Can you make this 3D? And they'd be like, sure, sure. And months later, when you'd see the show, you'd come back from Korea and like 75% of the shots that you planned on being 3D ended up being 2D, and you boarded them really in a really ambitious way that would be impossible for someone to do in 2D. Since Jonan was such a brilliant director of ADR, the additional dialogue, I had a shot in Planet, I think. Planet Jackers. No, what's the one where they...
Battle of the Planets?
Battle of the Planets. I had a shot where it was this, like, 180 pan of the Vought cruiser flying by. It was supposed to be 3D and it was in space and it was going to be really cool. But it came back and it was this like rickety, awkward, cheap 2D animation. And normally people would call it a retake or try to smooth it out. But Jonan just did some brilliant ADR where Richard's just like, woohoo, look at me! And it's just making fun of the shot. It ends up being funnier and cooler than anything that we had planned. So.
The hardest
All of
episodes
them.
would be all of them. I don't think there was a single weekend that we weren't working or thinking about work or. I mean.
Yeah, it was really difficult.
You almost had a panic attack.
Yeah, I had a panic attack the first day I worked. I was like, I don't know how to draw this style, but we got used to it. I guess the best thing about it, as far as with Jonan's input, was usually everywhere else we've worked, it's like, no, don't do that. They can't animate that overseas, or don't try that. And he was like, since he was new to animation, he was like, why can't you do that? I want you to do that. So we were like, what? Oh, all right. Which I think reflected in the show, because it's like artists running crazy, basically.
Yeah.
Creativeness, so.
Well, yeah, and the brilliance there is that it's risk-taking, and from risk-taking you get some amazing stuff. I mean, you make mistakes.
There's failures and there were successes, like every show or any movie, so.
Yeah.
An episode takes about a year, actually, from script to actual delivery, but post-production we usually have about 6 weeks to complete everything. So once it's come back from Korea, it takes us about 3 weeks to get the picture the way we want it, and 2 weeks to do sound effects and music, and then a week to mix it and deliver it. So it's about 6 weeks worth of post-production for each show.
On more than one occasion, I sat at my desk for, I think, about 36 hours straight, maybe catching a 45-minute nap. And it's really an amazing experience to see 2 work days pass by you and you only get through a few pages of storyboards, and the cleaning crews come by and they notice that you're wearing the same clothing, and you only eat a few times, and yeah.
I'm not really unhappy with the way anything turned out. I like the way all of the shows were. There's some shows I like more than others, but there's literally not a bad show in my opinion. With enough time and money, we could do anything better. But I think for what we had and what it was, I think it's a perfect show. I'm a huge fan of the show. I think it's an amazing product, and I wish that they would make 100 more of them. I understand why they don't, but I do. I wish they could make them forever, because it was an amazing process.
This is just something that I wanted to say, because on any commentary that you ever see in animation, generally the commentary is all like, everything's wonderful and animation is great. And I'm not saying animation is not great. But what I want to say is that for every person in my entire life that has come to me and go, oh, you draw for a living, that's so wonderful. Please stop doing that. It's hard work. Okay, that's all. Yeah. You get that so often. Oh, you're so lucky you get to draw for a living. It's maddening. You're like, well, actually, I'm drawing for a living at 3 in the morning on Sunday night, and everyone's angry at me.
Zim was the most creative and inspiring show I've worked on.
Yeah, we were lucky. That's our one good show we ever got to work on. The end.
Okay.